welcome to History Tape number 8 of It Happened in Grand Prairie, and we're bringing back the memories of Grand Prairie on this historic tape. This is January the 27th, 1986, and we have two very exciting guests today. But before we introduce those, we would like to tell you just a very mini thing about the black community in Grand Prairie, Texas. There were 3 special areas of Grand Prairie where there was a concentration of the black community, and those 3 are the Dalworth area, which is in southwest portion of Grand Prairie near the Tarrant County line along Jefferson and South. Also, the Shady Grove community, which is in north Grand Prairie, north of I-30 and past the Trinity River. Also, at one time, there was a very significant congregation of the black community at what is called the Line, and that's T-H-E-L-I-N-E, located out near the old Antioch Cemetery and church and school, and that is now in the body of Mountain Creek Lake. And you can see the area from Hardy Road and probably Avenue F in that portion of Lake Crest of Lakeview in Grand Prairie. But now to bring you some more details of that wonderful settlement, or the settlements of the black community, we're very delighted to bring 2 that are related. Helen Harden, we're so delighted to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you. It's nice to be on the show too, and to talk about black history as it was.
Wonderful. And as a member of the historical organization, we're delighted to welcome you wearing that hat too, because you have done a significant amount of research and have helped greatly in that, and we want to thank you publicly for your documentation that we have turned over to the Grand Prairie Memorial Library.
Well, thank you. I just wanted the memories to be where it was available to all people rather than in my house.
All right. Now, Helen Reed Harden, and when we give you the name Reed, that is very significant in that that is a long time name that has been associated with the black community in Grand Prairie, Texas. And we have as our next guest, Iola Reed Smith. Iola, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here too myself, and I was looking forward to this. And,
Wonderful. Now, Iola Reed Smith is very important to Grand Prairie's history documentation because this young lady remembers the time when we had the Line, and we're counting on her to help us fill in some of the gaps that may be missing from our historical documentation. And Iola, we'd like for you to start by bringing back to your memory the time when your folks came to the Grand Prairie area. And when you tell that, I'd like for you to tell your mother's name, your father's name, and etc., so you can bring back some of those good names to this tape. Would you do that and look right out into your camera and tell us about it?
Yes, I would like to say that we came here in 1916, but my mother, she wasn't with us, but I came with my sister. She lived here. She was Lola Jones, and the Jones had the farm down where the lake, they're in the middle of the lake now. And I went to school here in Grand Prairie, out here on the Line. And at that time, we just had to go to school in the hall, at the Masonic Hall, because they didn't have a school. And then I stayed here for a long time, and we had the hall, and the church was organized. The African Methodist Church was organized at that time in 1915. And so I have some pictures. They took the pictures of those churches. And we had a large family. It was quite a few families that's out on this line. And they were the Sheltons and the Jordans and Dales and the Watsons. They lived out there. So this is what I know about this.
Auntie, You remember that the school you went to was called the Freedman School, right?
Yeah.
That when they organized the school, it was called the Freedman School?
Yeah.
All right, was that located at the line area?
It was in the line area, yes.
Yeah, well,
Well, I have found some research in the Dallas County records where there was a Freetown
this
school.
is what other schools.
Is that your school? Was
That's
the
it.
Freetown school? Well,
Later
all
on,
right.
they named it Freetown School.
All right.
But in the beginning, to identify it as a school for ex-slaves, they call it the Freed Man School. And Freetown out there, the line Freetown, simply meant that this is where the slaves had came, the ex-slaves had came to this area and settled there. And many of them came from what we call the Black Belt. There's a book at the library that has this information in it, and of
Would
our
you
own
name that
remember.
book so
I
that
can't
anyone else-
remember the
That's
name,
all right.
but it's in the reference area,
right.
and it talks about Texas and Texas history.
Wonderful.
It tells you about the ex-slaves, the blacks coming to this area, migrating from the eastern and the southern end of the state, and they came here to make a better life for themselves.
All right, now the Freetown or the line area was long before Dalworth was settled. Is this correct?
Well, the people lived in Dalworth,
I see.
but it's just about 3 or 4 families up there. And the children had to come back on the line to go to school.
All right, now I want you to tell me about the school. You said there was a Masonic Lodge there, and that's where they went to school.
That's what we had at school.
All right, now there's a Masonic Lodge in Dalworth. That is a later version, right?
They
That's the
moved
same
it up
lodge.
there. They moved that hall.
In other words, the hall that is now located in Dalworth
On
is the
Nathan.
one
It
that
was
was...
on the line.
Isn't that splendid to get to know that? Now tell me, what church was located out at the line area?
Antioch.
That was the
Baptist-
Antioch
Baptist
Baptist.
Church.
Now there was not a Methodist,
No, not.
but there was an Antioch Baptist in conjunction with the Masonic Hall that was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
What else did you have other than a Masonic Hall, which also served as a schoolhouse? Can you tell me who taught school there, please, Howla?
The lady, the name was Mrs. Chapman. She taught school there.
All right. And were you under the direction of the Dallas County Schools into a county school?
I'm sure it was, but I was 12 years old.
You were 12 years old.
Yeah.
Was your school like mine in that maybe in one room you had as many
Had
as 5
all
grades?
the classes, all the grades in that room.
All the grades?
From the first to the, I think to the 8th grade or something like that.
First to the 8th was in the Masonic Hall out at Freetown, which was known as the Line.
And an interesting thing about schools for us at that time was that school always opened after they had finished picking the cotton, and they closed early enough so they could get the fields ready for planting the cotton. This is one of the things that happened. The black children, or the children of the ex-slaves, went to school on a 7-month year in place of a 9-month year.
All right, now I need to ask you this, Iola Reed Smith. Before you became Mrs. Reed, what was your maiden name?
I was a Reed.
You was a Reed, and then you became a Smith.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I needed to get that straight in my mind so that we wouldn't miss anything there.
Yeah.
All right, now, when did you move from the Line to another area of Grand Prairie, Texas?
Well, I moved back in 1922, moved to Dalworth.
You moved to Dalworth in 1922, and as a stem winder in the community, were you one of the ones that helped your Methodist church begin there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's the first building we built as in 1920.
1920.
It was built before I got there, and they finished it, you know. And then my father, my uncle, they was the architect that built the church. They was Arch Long and Buried Long.
Arch Long and Baird, B-A-I-R.
Buried.
Wow.
Buried Long, they the one was architect and building that evening church, you know, the old church.
All right, now, we've asked you everything except something real personal. You haven't told us how old you are, the year that you were born, and where you were born.
I was born in 1904, and January the 2nd, so I'm 82 years old.
All right, and where were you born?
I was born in Oklahoma, at Caldwell, Oklahoma.
Isn't that wonderful?
It wasn't a state then, it was a territory.
In the territory of Oklahoma.
That's... It didn't become a state until 1907, you know. So that's where I was born, and we stayed there.
All right, now, Iola, I want you to tell me, do you have any children?
I have 3 children.
You have 3 children. Would you like to name them?
Yes, the name was Florence. They was Lafayette.
All right.
My children was Lafayette.
All right.
And Dorothy Lafayette, and Lehman Lafayette, Jr.
All right. That's wonderful. Do any of those live in Grand Prairie, Texas?
No.
Yeah.
I have, they live...
Auntie, you didn't name Beatty.
Who?
Beatty, did you name her?
She's my great-grand.
Oh, okay.
All right. We're into the children right now. We're going to get to we'll get to that later generation. That's wonderful. Well, other than Helen, do you have other relatives living here in Grand Prairie, Texas you'd like to name drop?
Yes, I have. Oh, I have lots of them. I have Helen, and I have Lola Bell.
What's Lola Bell's last name?
Humphrey.
All right, tell me their last names. See, we need all of that on this tape, all right? Who is your other?
Lola Bell Humphrey. Then I have Wanda Dean Dixon.
All
That's my
right.
granddaughter.
All right.
And I have Michael Harrison and Mitchell Harrison. And who else I have?
What about Randy?
That's my
That's, yeah, Randolph
Reed Jr.
Oh, of course. Very famous young man here in Grand Prairie, Texas, in the school system, right?
Yeah, I have him. And I'm just trying to think all I have, so many of them here.
That is just wonderful. We're going to let you rest for just a minute, and we're going to come back and look at some of your memorabilia in a few minutes. But let's get in a few licks with Helen Harden here, because we don't want to miss any part of her story. Helen Reed Harden, tell me how you're related to Iola and some of your family.
Well, this is a very special relationship. This is my father's sister. My father was Booker T. Reed. And I call her Auntie. It's hard for me to say Iola Reed Smith.
I wish you would call her Auntie.
Okay. And Auntie is the last living full sister in his family. She is the last living sister, a child that is, of my grandmother. Now, of course, my grandmother died in 1915. Her name was Cora Randolph Reed. And her children my grandfather had, and then he later remarried. And he had children by his other wife. So actually, my father has 2 sisters and a brother living. His brother is Charles Reed. He's a minister and a teacher in the Baptist church. Okay. Now, my father, of course, I said, was Booker T. Reed, her sister, her brother. And my mother was Anna Mae Fisher Reed. Now, to get them together, I think this is a little interesting, and you can cut as much as you don't need.
We will not cut anything. Tell us how they met, where they came from, all of the good stuff.
My dad came out of Falls County. That's the Marlin area, Marlin-Chilton area in sort of southeast Texas. Now, my mother came out of the middle of the Black Belt. She came out of Panola County. She was born in Carthage, Texas. That's where they came from. And when Auntie was talking about being born in Corbett, Oklahoma, there were a lot of the Randolphs living in the Oklahoma area territory. And grandfather moved up there after, I believe 2 of his children was born before they moved up there, and then the rest of them was born up there. And my husband, Harden, Frank Harden, is active in Grand Prairie also.
In the Rotary Club and many other things.
Yes, he is.
Tell us a little bit about
And we
Frank.
are members of Inglewood United Methodist Church, and we're active there.
Where did Frank come from?
Frank is a Yankee. converted to Texas.
How wonderful of you to accept him.
Yeah. He is more Texan, I believe, than I am sometime. But he came out of the Ohio Valley. He was born in Columbus, Ohio. He spent 27 years in the military.
All right.
And taught school in Chicago afterwards. Then he decided that I should come home. So we moved back to Texas.
Oh, how wonderful. And in that interim, now, you have not told us about your growing up in Grand Prairie, Texas. Tell me something about when you lived in Grand Prairie.
Well, I lived in the, we like to call it the Bear Creek Frogtown area of Grand Prairie. That's North Grand Prairie, and it's over, I wrote this down so I'd remember. It's over by Rock Island Road, back towards Shady Grove Road in that area. And I grew up on Gilbert Road over there.
All right.
So,
near Shady Grove Road, but north of that toward
north of Shady Grove Road on Gilbert Road, yes.
That was a pretty concentrated area and a black community, and there are several significant church buildings and landmarks out there. Would you tell us a little bit about some of those and the names of them?
The oldest church out there has sort of declined. It's no longer there. It was Mount Elam Baptist Church.
All right.
And the Rogers family, who was related on my mother's side, the Jernigan side of my family, they donated the land to establish the Mount Elam Church.
All right.
In fact, they came out there, and I don't have the date right at hand, but we call him Old Man Rogers because he was the oldest one and the others were his children. He owned all the land in Dallas that you know as San Jacinto Street.
All right.
That was his land. And he sold it to the city when they built, when Dallas wanted it for San Jacinto Street. He came out there and he bought enough land so that he could give all of his children a land to build on. And then over in Shady Grove, over on near Shady Grove Road, further over, the Jim Green Mission started, and that was a CME church.
All right.
A long time ago, it was called the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church. Now it is, the denomination has changed their name to fit the times, and it's the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church.
All right, and it's still in existence.
It is still in existence. They just remodeled it, yes. It is over 100 years old. It's about 103 years old now.
Are you working on a marker for that church building?
I suggested that the members do that. I gave them the research, and I have some old cards here, that this is a speech I made for them when they were 100 years old. And I have all the research in here about the Jim Green Mission. That's what it was called when he gave the land to them. He also was the instigator for the land for the school over there.
All right.
The school was right next door to the church.
All right, now tell me about that school. What happened to it?
Well, it was later rebuilt into the Davis School.
The Davis School.
Yes, and this was a pioneer family out there too. So actually that area is considered the oldest black community in Dallas County.
Wonderful. All right, now tell me this. Name drop some of the important black families that were in the Shady Grove, Bear Creek, and you used another exciting name.
Well, they call it Frogtown. See, long before it was called Shady Grove, the area where Rogers bought was called Frogtown.
I see.
And then the area where I grew up was called Bear Creek.
All right.
Of course, it's split now. All the area south of Rock Island Road is Grand Prairie. And the area north of Rock Island Road is Irving.
All right.
And you wanted me to name some of the people.
Some of the good families that were out in that
area. There
area.
was the Trigg family out there. There was the Jordan family was in Dalworth. There was the some of the Sheltons lived over there. There were some Jones out there. And I think, Auntie, weren't those Jones over there related to the Jones that Aunt Lola married?
I don't think they were related.
You don't think they were related?
No.
I know, because these Jones they migrated down from the Grapevine area, but they were there. And I was trying to think of some of the Holmes were over there. I forgot my own relatives. The Holmes were over there. And the Davises.
All right, now
Those
we've
are some
talked
of the
about the
families.
churches, we've talked about the schools. Is there only one black cemetery in this area that the black community uses, and that's now the American Memorial that was the Antioch, or was there another cemetery?
No, there's a cemetery over in the Shady Grove area.
In the Shady Grove area?
Yeah, it's a cemetery on the hill. And in all of my research, I have not found the original name of that cemetery.
But you call it the cemetery on the hill?
On the hill.
And where is that located in
It's really
conjunction?
it's in the Irving part of the area out there.
North of Rock Island?
North of Rock Island.
I've heard
yes.
about that cemetery.
Yes,
I've
and the
heard about
Triggs have the records on that. I forgot to mention Allen Chapel over there, because it's almost 100 years old now. It was established in 1889.
Is that E-L-L-E-N?
A-L-L-E-N.
The Allen, okay.
Yeah, and it's a AME church also.
All right. Now we've gotten into churches and schools, and tell me, Iola Reed Smith, when you were in Grand Prairie, were you always a homemaker, or did you ever work out of the home?
Oh, I worked. I worked.
You worked some, okay.
Yes, I worked, this domestic some, and then
All
I
right.
worked. Then later on, I worked at the Naval Air Station.
Isn't that exciting? Yes,
When
good.
it was Hensley Field.
Yes, when it was Hensley Field.
Yeah, I worked there. for a
All
long
right.
time. And I've done a lot of other works like church work, club work, and things like and work with.
Oh,
And
Auntie,
I
tell
wanted
them a
to-
little bit about your Princess Art Club, one of the oldest gardening clubs and what have you in the area.
Give us the name one more time.
Princess Art Club.
The Princess Art Club, and where was that located?
Well, it was in Dallas, but we had members
In Grand Prairie.
And we are celebrating our 63rd anniversary.
All right,
the
and where do you
Princess-
meet now?
We meet in the different homes. They'll be in Grand Prairie this first Thursday.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
Miss Oliver's in Creole Oliver's entertaining. She's in our club. And we also had lots of people that, I worked in the churches, I said, in Hensley Field. And I wanted to say about my sister, Lola Jones.
All right.
She was instrumental in getting the lights in Grand Prairie.
Correct.
We didn't have any lights there, and when this church was built, we had lamps up against the walls and everything. And then it was she's the one was went to have that done. Lola Jones.
All right.
Lola Jones Reed.
Now, Helen, we're going to have to ask you about your brothers and sisters. And another thing, if you'd tell a little bit about your brothers and sisters, and if there are any here in Grand Prairie, plus we want to know what you've been doing with your life when you met Mr. Frank Harden and you were into, we know, many different things, and you worked for the United States government. Tell us what you did and bring us a little bit more up to date.
May I back up a little bit and tell you about another family?
Wonderful.
Okay, the Mortons. And the
All right.
reason I want to do this is because I would be remiss. That's one of the old families over in the Bear Creek area of
All
Grand
right.
Prairie. And one of their sons
As a
was a
principal.
principal in Grand Prairie.
Yes, Delmas Martin, and I,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, that's very, if we had left Delmas out, he would have been very upset with us as an old family
And
in
he
Grand
sh-
Prairie.
he should have been.
Yes. All right, now tell
Now-
us a little bit about you.
My sisters, I have 5 sisters.
How exciting.
4 of them are living. So I'll talk about the 4 that's living because the one that died was only 16 at
All
the
right.
time. Okay.
Tell us whether or not they live in Grand Prairie.
Okay. I will name the ones that live in Grand Prairie first.
All right, good.
Okay. Because I have 2 that live in Grand Prairie.
All right,
Auntie named one of them, Lola Bell Reed Humphrey.
all right,
That's my sister.
all right,
And then there comes me tagging after her.
all right.
And Lurleen Reed Green.
All right.
See, she married into the Green family who were instrumental in starting the Green Mission.
All
over
right,
there.
in Shady Grove, Bear Creek
Yes.
area, all right.
And she has one of her sons that teach in the Grand Prairie School System.
All right, tell us his name and where he teaches.
He's Warren Dexter Green, and I can't think of the name of the school, and yet I vote in the Recreation Center right next door to it at the Charlie Taylor
All right,
Recreation
that's
Center.
Crockett or Lee.
I think it's Crockett because
we'll
it's the
go with
elementary
Crockett.
school.
Good.
He teaches second grade, second and third,
All right.
second grade, I believe it is.
Okay.
And he's a graduate of UTA Arlington.
All right.
Now, Lola has one daughter.
All right.
She lives in Fort Worth.
All right.
I don't have any children, per se. I have a stepdaughter, and she lives in Georgia.
All right. But now tell us what you've been doing with your life and how you met
I
Frank.
wanted to get out of there. Good. Okay. I was what they call a mid-level manager with the Defense Department.
All right.
And that means I managed industrial property at one time.
Mm-hmm.
At one time I was a personnel officer. And then I managed excess property to the needs of the Defense Department.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing at the time of my retirement.
All right.
And it was interesting because most of my schooling came from the Air Force Institute of Technology in Dayton, Ohio at Wright-Patterson. So it was interesting. And I traveled quite a bit with the Department of the Air Force and other branches of the government. I ended up in the supply arm of the Defense Department.
All right. We have a couple of minutes left, and we must show off some of this good memorabilia. We've just got to do this. Would you like to tell us about this little article that you have, Iowa?
Oh, yeah, this is my grandfather. He was the custodian at Baylor University. My also was a custodian of Baylor University. And when he went there, he was very young. He hadn't had much schooling, but all of the students there, they taught him everything they knew. And before he left there, well, he was just a great scholar. And he also worked at the custodian at the St. Luke Lutheran Church in Waco. And this pastor, they helped him. They gave him all of the books. And at our home, we didn't have television or radios and things, but we had a library there, and my father taught us everything. You know, everybody could read and write before they ever went to school. And also, he didn't leave us a lot of material things, but a great heritage he left for this family, because the principles and things he stood for, that it helped us all along.
All right, can you tell us about this photograph we have right in front of us before we need to leave?
Which one?
This one.
Oh, this is the evening chapel, AME Church. And this was after my father had passed. But this is where we didn't have a dining room or nothing, so when we had our big days, we had to have it outside. And this was a big dinner out there.
When was this picture taken? Can you remember that?
It was 1948.
1948. We're going to have to leave this exciting session. We may have to have you all back for another, because I know we're not nearly completed with the things that you need to tell us. Iola Reed-Smith, it's been wonderful having you with us. It has just been so delightful.
Thank
You're
you.
very precious and always look so foxy. And Helen Reed Harden, you are important to the history of Grand Prairie, and especially to the black community.
Thank you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you, history is as we live and do.